Welcome back to the latest episode of the Laura and Becky Show. So, most of you know the story by now. We were on the radio. We got sacked, so we flew off to Mallorca. We got drunk and we were like, we're going to start a podcast.
We are now sponsored by East Midlands Airport, Prince Family Law Solicitors and Red Brick Estate Agents. So it's a Wednesday, and on a Wednesday, we like to have a guest on. We kind of want to up our games. Up our game.
Yeah.
Up our game with getting guests on.
We do. We've actually got a little list, haven't we? We started doing it at the beginning of this season. A kind of like a list of people that we'd like to get on. And do you know what? It's not like we're not getting celebs on or anything like that. It's normal people with blooming good stories. That's what we like. We always talk about Mike, don't we?
Yes.
So Mike, who is the man who does not worry, he's a normal guy with a fascinating life story. We got such a good response from that and we want more of that.
Kind of think Take a Break. Do you know what? I had a look at
the modern day Take a Break.
Yeah, I had a look at the front of a Take a Break the other day, and the titles of the stories are awesome. It's like,
love it.
My mum got impregnated by an alien.
Mate, do you know that I was on the front cover of Take a Break?
Stop it.
I swear
When?
down.
Which one?
I don't know which one. Hang on. No, sorry.
Weren't you on the cover?
It was Take a Puzzle. Not Take a Break.
Take a Puzzle?
Take a Puzzle or
Do
whatever
a
it's called.
puzzle?
Do a Puzzle. It's like...
Take a Puzzle.
But it's the Take a Breaks puzzle book, I think.
Have you still got it?
Oh, yeah. It's in my mum's front room in her drawer, so I'll have to get it out.
What, just modelling?
Yeah, it's me and a
Do you like
guy.
doing a crossword?
I don't mind it,
Do
actually.
you?
Yeah, I don't. On a Sunday, I quite like it.
What's the number one? Sudoku. You ever tried doing that?
That's a bit much for me.
Yeah,
a simple crossword
my
is fine.
stepdad used to do Sudoku on the toilet.
Men do like doing it on the toilet, don't they?
Disgusting.
Sometimes you go into people's toilets and they've got a little crossword
little
thing
puzzle.
next to the toilet, haven't they? It's their time to just relax, isn't it? And like take a load
Take
off,
a poo.
literally.
I don't have time. My poos come out very quickly.
Oh my God.
I literally, sorry. No, honestly, do you take ages doing a poo?
No, I don't take ages, but I wouldn't say I'm like vumph either.
No, mine is vumph.
Are they? I wonder, I've got another friend, right, who
I can
is
poo
a
as quick as I
ridiculously... Stop.
I'll go and do a poo and I'll come back out and my husband will be like, you just done it? I'm like, yeah.
What, do you tell him you're going for a poo? So he knows you're going in for number 2?
Well, occasionally. I mean, I don't announce it.
For a poo, love.
I'm not. But sometimes we're like, oh, I need a poo. I'll go for a poo. And I'll come back and he'll be like,
It's like, have you done it?
And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, what?
I wonder if there's...
Sometimes I think
like
I
a
don't even need to wipe.
Mate, that's disgusting.
But I do.
That is disgusting.
I do. But it comes out so like whoop, straight out. It doesn't even touch the sides.
Oh my God.
There will be other people listening that will do poos like me.
Well, yeah, no, so one of my really good friends, I'm not going to say who it is, obviously.
Say.
I can't. She is the quickest pooer I've ever known in my life. Again, I used to be like, you've done it?
Yeah.
Like, what?
She'll
I
know
wonder
exactly
who's
what I
quicker,
mean.
you or her. You should have a little race one day.
I'd love to do that. Right, 3, 2, 1. Plop. Done. See ya. Anyway, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, we need to change the subject.
So from poo to our guest.
Oh, how
There's
apt.
no correlation.
No. Unless, is she a quick
Actually,
pooer?
there is a little bit. There is, isn't there?
Is
The area.
there? Yeah.
Anyway, Jesus. We've never introduced someone like this before, have we?
I know, yes, sorry about this. We need to explain how we met this guest as well. So we've got the lovely Zara on today, and we've talked about her quite a lot on this pod because she is, well, your hairy godmother is what you've been calling her. She's a hair zapper. She does laser, and we went to see her, didn't we, in Buxton. This was a few weeks ago. You've been back since.
Yeah, I'm going to be going back a lot. Yeah.
Oh, it's gone.
Yeah. Just got that hair off. Off we go again. That's me.
So we've got lovely Zara in today, and how you messaged us, didn't you, initially?
Oh, the message was what caught our
Thank
attention.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good, to be honest.
It was
I was
great.
pretty proud of myself.
Go on, Zara. Tell us what you
tell us
messaged
what you
us.
said.
Well, so I was introduced, I was told about you guys by the lovely Sammy, who has Coco Travels, who I think is wonderful. And she says, Zara, you need to get in touch with Laura and Becky. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I sat there. I had a little peruse at the Instagram. And I saw that you like a pale rosé, and you're obviously a little wee bit Larry. And I thought, I like these two. This is a bit of me. So I sat down, I got an Earl Grey, because that's how my Earl Grey is a bit like your rosé. You know,
Okay.
that's my thinking drink. And I thought, you know what? Just go in, just be you, and say along the lines of, "Would you like a bit of pale rosé? Behave mildly feral and I can zap your fanny." And then I think I finished it off with, "Well, why wouldn't you?" As if
Yes.
like, you know, who on earth would say no to such an offer?
Now, this is
Oh my
before
God.
you say you had a peruse, you had a little stalk on Insta, but you did not know my hair problems.
I did
You-
not.
You did not know.
No.
So I remember reading your message. First of all, it made me howl because I was just like, this is genius. But when you said about lasering, I thought, my prayers have been answered.
Yeah, I mean, Laura has literally, she's talked about being hairy on this podcast a lot. And it was literally like the heavens had opened and an angel had come down. She couldn't believe it. She was literally like, mate, look at this message. So yeah, you literally answered her prayers.
It's an absolute honour.
Thanks,
It's a
Zara.
pleasure.
But we are going to talk about hair and how you got to where you are now, but not on the pod today because your previous job, pre-lasering hair, is very interesting.
And we like an interesting story. Okay. So you used to be a prison officer.
I did.
And that is what we're going to talk about today.
First question, how did you get into it? Is it something you always wanted to do? Tell us.
Okay, the story goes like this. I had a cafe in a CrossFit gym in Colchester, where I'm from. And the guy I was with at the time basically said to me, "You need to go get a proper job." That was the long and short of it.
Oh, we don't like that, do
Well,
we?
I think he thought that I just ate a lot of the profits, which I did. I love to eat, and I'm a fairly good cook. And so people were getting well fed. I was getting well fed.
Right.
And I'm probably not great at being like, you know, that's the actual price of it and I want you to pay that. They were all people I knew from the gym and it's nice to be nice. So anyway, but I had a great time. So anyway, I said, "What do you class as a proper job?" And he said something in the civil service. Okay. So I had a look on the civil service website and they were advertising for a prison officer. So I said, "How about this? I'm going to be a prison officer." And he was like, "Oh yeah, no, well, I mean, you know, I said a proper job, but you know, I'm not that keen on that." No. You said get a proper job and that's what I'm going to do. So I became a prison officer.
Oh my God. What happens like in an interview
what the
for a
hell?
prison
How would you
officer job?
Yeah.
Like, is it like a normal interview or
Well,
not?
you don't, these days you don't have an interview as such. Like everything is done online. So you actually, it's quite funny. You play sort of what I would call as a game. So they're trying to assess like your skills in certain areas. So for instance, one of them was like a series of cartoony type faces, and it was like, pick their expressions. Are they sad? Are they happy? Are they confused?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this
I
sounds
could
all
do
right.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This sounds great.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the people that you work with these days, you think, yeah, that's probably sums up the recruitment process. Like you need to, you know, go old school, meet people,
Yeah,
get them to
face to
say
face.
what. Yeah.
So then what else? So you did your faces, you're happy,
So
sad, and all
you did all
that.
that. So you get through these stages of these games. One of the, God, this was annoying. You had to unlock like a code. So you would press like this button and it was about trying to get the numbers to like line up on this code thing. And but the more times you pressed it, I think you would lose. It was like a point system. So it was really, so you had to pick whether you let it go or whether you kept going and getting it wrong and then lost.
So I don't get this bit.
Why
I
don't they
don't get this
ask you,
bit.
like, are you good at turning keys and locking doors?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
would imagine that's quite important in a prison.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you assertive? Do you have
Can you-
like
yeah.
authority? You know?
Yeah.
Can you break up a fight?
Fight? Yeah.
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 Can you?
Can you?
Do you know you don't serve the mashed potato, do you? That wasn't what you were doing.
No.
In the canteen.
No, although I did work in the kitchen for a bit, so I was making the mashed potato
There we
for
go.
a bit. But yeah.
Right. So, okay. So obviously you got the job.
So I got the job, and then you go through the training, which you do, luckily,
Right.
on site. So yeah, so we trained for 8 weeks, which was a lot of classroom stuff and then a bit of practical stuff, you know, which is fun because you're just. I remember one time we were having to do practice. Practice. I'm one of those plastic people called that you do, you know,
dummies.
that's the one. Anyway, so you have to. So the two guys that were trainers were there with the casualty on the floor, and you have to sort of run in. And as I've run in, I'm quite clumsy. I've trampled on the dummy. And at that point, we've all just we just couldn't breathe for a few minutes. So there was no point me giving him mouth to mouth. I'd
trampled him.
Yeah, I'd crushed his chest.
Oh my God.
There we go.
But you still got the job. You still got the job.
Yeah.
You had to say what prison you were in?
I was at Chelmsford.
And is that like a man's, woman's?
It's men's.
Men's?
Yeah. I would not want to work with women.
Hang on, wait a sec. You're in a man prison.
I'm in a man prison and full of men.
I didn't know they had female prison officers in a man's prison.
Yeah, and actually quite a lot now. I think, again, back in the day, very few and far between. There's a lot of females now.
And is it like a notorious prison? Is it bad men?
So it was a category B. So there's only category A, which is maximum security. So we were a local prison. So we got a lot, everybody in that had been to court would just come in, and then they would wait to sort of be sentenced. So we would have, paedophiles, murderers,
I have got so many questions in my mind. I don't even know where to stop.
Yeah.
Okay,
oh
so
God.
First of all, so you've got the job, you trampled on a dummy.
Yeah.
Your first day, were you shitting yourself? Were you nervous? Because obviously the prisoners must know you're a newbie. Is there
do you know what? Yeah, and what I find really disappointing again about the recruitment process is actually it's a really easy job in terms of you just got to be able to talk to people. You just got to be able to look at a situation, think, right, something's going on there, and there was always atmospheres. So when stuff was brewing, when it was about to kick off, you would feel an atmosphere. And we would be like, right, something's just people were behaving strangely, and you were getting yourself geared up because you knew it would erupt at some point.
It was going off.
Yeah. So people, great that you can be good on a video game or whatever, but if you can't talk to someone face to face, assess the situation, you're fucking useless.
Right. Okay.
Oh my God.
So your first day. Did they ease you in gently?
No.
Right. So hang on. So okay. So how do you know what the hell you're going to do with you get into work? Is there a rota of where you are?
So you go in, you get your keys, you get your baton, you pick your radio up, and you look at the board, and it will say which wing you're on. You do get assigned to a wing, which you're meant to be on most of the time, but that never used to happen. So you'd look and you'd see who you're on with, and you'd be like, great, we're going to have a good day, or, I'm working with a bunch of idiots. So to be honest, your day can just literally, that changes everything. Seeing who you're working with and where you are either makes it or breaks it.
And the guys in the prison, so when you first went in, it's your first day, obviously they know you're new. Were they making any comments at you, or like heckling you, or giving you any grief?
Yeah, I mean, that was just part and parcel of it. Like, you just have to accept if you are female, they're going to ask you to get your like, it's just how it goes.
Fellow prison officers, did you all get on? You have to obviously work as a team massively, I would have thought. What happens there?
Do you know what? The other officers are worse than the prisoners. And I remember a really good friend of mine saying, you won't ever leave because of the prisoners, you'll leave because of the staff. And if there's anybody else listening that was a prison officer, I'm sure they would say the same thing. Like, it's just gone are the days, again, I'm speaking from what I was told, 10, 20 years ago, where you were the officers, you ran the jail, the prisoners sort of did what you wanted them to do, and they knew if you didn't, there'd be consequences. This day and age, they run the jail, and we're just sort of there just,
right,
assisting.
So why is that?
Because I guess, to generalise, that's how the world is now. It's they have a lot of power. So if you use force on them, you have to write huge reports. You have to basically really explain yourself why you felt you had to do that. Which, again, I'm not saying that that's wrong.
Is it because the world's like quite PC these days? Is that what you mean?
Very PC. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but that just you're working with men that a lot of them are in and out of prison. So they remember officers that have been there. The old timers that are still there, they remember them. They're not stupid men. This is the thing that, all right, people can say, oh, you're stupid because you end up in prison. But actually, when you put someone away that has all this time to think, they all they're focused on is whatever it is that they're plotting.
Yeah.
We do our job, we go home and ideally you forget about it. But all they're thinking about is what they want to do, what they're going to, how they're going to get the drugs in, what booze they're going to make in there, how they're going to, fight another inmate that they hate, that. And so they can actually plot these things really well. And a lot of them have said to me, we don't like this new way where it's all sort of like, he can't say that and you can't do this. They want the structure. They want the routine.
Yeah.
And these days, you push them out of the way. It's a big drama.
You can't do anything,
No.
can you? Was there anyone in there that you thought was in there wrongly, so they
Yes.
weren't guilty?
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Okay. So I ended up, there was a time that it was COVID actually hit and they needed some more help in the kitchen. And I remember emailing the governor and I said, look, I used to run my own cafe. So, I'm handy with an onion and a chopping board and all that. Would you like me to go in and help you? And she said, that would be brilliant. So I went in and they would have the set prisoners that would come in and that would be their job to work in the kitchen. So got to know them all, chatting to this one guy, and he was, a nice fella. If you walked past him in the street, you wouldn't make any particular assumption and be like, oh, you're a dodgy bastard. Can I say that?
Yeah,
Just
say
done
that.
it. Soz. And anyway, he ran his own business and he was working for a couple in this big house, and they were doing lots. I can't remember exactly what his trade was, but he'd done a lot of work on this house, build them, and they just didn't want to pay him, and he kept coming back and he was like, look, I think it was like 15 grand, like, you owe me this money, like, please can you, my bills are mounting up because of it. Anyway, this goes on and on and on. He hasn't paid, and he said he was out with his wife and they were driving past the house and the couple had a new Mercedes on the drive, a new nice car that he said was about 70 grand. And he said he just absolutely saw red, and he pulled into the driveway and he smashed the back door in, and went in, and there was a bit of a scuffle, if you like. Actually, I think the couple, it was a gay couple, they actually attacked him. So although yes, he had, broken into the house, which you shouldn't do, kids, but he did, but they actually attacked him. The police were called and obviously he was arrested. And where he went wrong is that you just don't, even if you just want to put the windows through, again, not great, but it's because
Not advised, guys.
he went into the house,
Yeah.
and that then becomes a whole different ball game. So he was looking at 8 years. He got out after a year, but he'd never been in prison before. Wife, kids, good job. But he said he was depressed at the time. It's a lot of money to be owed, and he just saw red when they had this fancy car on the drive, as if they didn't give two shits about him. And to be honest, I think that can happen to anybody. And it's made me think that actually there's lots of people that end up in a situation that they never thought they would. Does that make them a bad person? Are they going to rob an old lady? No.
Yeah.
I judge people by that. You leave the old people alone.
Did he cope all right in prison then? Because like you say, he's not one of these people who's in and out of prison or committed crimes before. Did he struggle?
No, he was actually okay, because we got our group of workers from G Wing, and that is the enhanced wing. So if you get onto G Wing because you've shown good behaviour, etc., you get the good jobs on there. So he came to the kitchen nearly every day. They had a good amount of gym time. Their wing was nicer than the other wings. So he could have had it a lot worse.
Okay, so when a prisoner goes into prison on their first day, what happens?
So they'll come off the Serco bus. They'll come into reception.
The what? Hang on, the what bus?
The Serco bus. Do you ever see them driving around?
They're like the police vans.
Yeah.
With the little black squares as the windows.
Oh,
They're
okay.
all sat in there in their little cubicles.
Right.
So they'll come through. They'll go to reception. I never worked in the reception, but there'll be a form to fill out. They'll have a picture taken. They'll take off so if they've got particular belongings that they're not allowed to have, they're only allowed certain amounts of clothing, so a certain amount of items. If they've come in, head to toe Gucci, we're going to have to put them Oh God, some of them do come in all, all singing, all dancing, and we're like, yeah, I don't think you're going to have those possessions long if you go on the wing.
Stephen Bear when he went to prison.
He had a fur coat on, didn't
yeah.
he?
Fur coat, gold necklaces,
What a
but they got
tosser.
taken off him.
They get that back when they leave, right?
They get that back when they leave. Yes, it's stored in like a big a prop room,
right.
So they'll go on a scanner, which will just make sure they're not.
And we've
there's
got
no
any
drugs
up the bum.
Yeah, and that'll be it. And then they'll stay in reception for a little while, and then they'll get allocated onto a wing. So every morning, reception will ring round and say like, how many spaces do you have? Because they need to know the spaces that we've got. So on each wing, so they can say, right, well, we're sending 2 down from reception. So they'll bell us and say, right, you've got 2 coming over. They'll come onto the wing. Everyone's like, oh.
Yeah, I was going to say, newbies,
Yeah.
like being a newbie. I mean, I, like you said, I'm sure people are in and out of prison constantly.
Yeah.
So they'll know some of them. But if it's like a new, is there any, I know this is going to sound a bit controversial, but like your guy that kind of, lost it. Does anyone ever walk in and you feel a little bit sorry for them?
Yeah, we've had a couple of young lads, to be fair, that have walked in and they're
Terrified.
petrified. Yeah, they're absolutely petrified.
Anyone well-known, like a well-known case that's been in prison when you were there and you were like, oh, or like a notorious person?
No, I know there was, I can't even remember what his name was, but there was a fairly, if you're into this type of music, there was a rapper that came in that was well-known. I mean, it's not my, not my choice, but he was, so people were talking about him, but it wasn't Stormzy. So we all need to just calm down. It wasn't him. Yeah.
We want some stories.
You want some stories? Okay.
Yeah, so give us a story.
So I rang one of my colleagues last night and I explained that I was going on this podcast because it's hard when you step away from that line of work and you're not I don't see these people anymore because they're back home. You just sort of forget about it. And I said, right, I'm going on this podcast. We work together quite a bit. Can you just, jog my memory a bit? And he came up with an absolute blinder, which was, so security would say to us, right, we've got intel that this prisoner, has got drugs and we want you to go search him and search the cell. So we'll get given that task and 2 of us will go. So me and my friend, we went into this cell and we were like, right, so we're here to do a cell search. Anyway, he goes in his pocket and grabs something out and he's making his way round to the back entrance. So I've launched myself at him, thrown him down onto the bed, to try and like restrain him. So my colleagues then come round to try and wrestle with him to get the drugs package off him. But where the drugs package already was, going up a certain tunnel and my friend's finger ended up inserting slightly into this this guy's back door. And he said that even the next day he could still smell shit.
No. Stop.
Yeah.
No.
And was there drugs there?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
So you got those.
He knew what was happening as soon as we'd opened the door.
But I'm not being funny.
They know.
Like,
It's always their go-to. Always the go-to.
But why? Because isn't now that the most obvious place? I mean, not that there's lots of other places, but why do they even bother? Because is it because you can't? You're not allowed to.
Yeah, well, what we then do, if we suspect that they're inside, we then take them back to reception and then they'll go on the body scanner that they'd go on when they come in because that will show what's...
But
and
why
then you
don't
just hope
go,
that they...
You've got it. Oh, I can't hide it because I'm going to go in the scanner. And that's just embarrassing then, isn't it?
It's a bit boring though, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
This
is probably the
make
big
us work
thing of
for the
their
money,
day.
Yeah. Another good one was so when stuff kicks off, there'll be an alarm bell that comes over.
How does it sound? Do it for us. Is it like a wow, wow, wow?
Yeah. It's a bit siren-y.
I've never been in prison.
Is it quite loud?
Very, very loud.
Is it red lights? And
No, there's no lights.
I thought there'd be red
There's no
lights.
disco or anything.
Right.
No, it's just a,
Just an alarm.
But this can be called in several ways. So in the everywhere there'll be alarm bell buttons. So if you couldn't get to your radio or something like that to call it over the radio, you would press the button, and it would say the communications officer would say, alarm bell, Delta Wing, 2's landing. So you know to run up to the next level.
Right.
So we had this alarm bell come through and it was on E-Wing, which is where that's where all the druggies went. That was like the druggie wing. So anyway, so I'm running down, and as I get in, it's just like I'm met with like just smoke. Like it was like stars in their eyes. I was like, tonight, Matthew, I'm gonna be. And then when it clears, there's a prisoner in a wheelchair holding a fire extinguisher. And he's like about to lob it at me. So we have batons, so I've racked my baton and I've given him a whack, but he didn't have any legs, so I've whacked his willy, basically. He dropped the fire extinguisher.
I was going to say, did it get dropped?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So by whacking his willy,
Well,
I mean, that's
saved the day. Yeah.
Well, you don't want a fire extinguisher lobbed at you, do you?
I absolutely don't.
But what's he trying to achieve?
Well,
it's a bit of excitement, isn't it?
Is it?
Do you know what? But the thing is, because when you have an alarm bell, you run from all different wings. So I wasn't on the wing at the time, so you're never privy, which actually I prefer, because when I've been on a wing and like I said to you, feel it bubbling, your guard gets up and you're starting to get yourself worked up because something's going to happen. When you're that person that's just running from wherever, the adrenaline's going.
Yeah.
I'm giving it Linford Christie, and one of my favourite things to do was to overtake other officers, because I thought, here we go.
Yeah.
Well, also, I just think that, and it might be the same with the police force as well, that actually no one's got any pride in their fitness, as in people just scrape the barrel. And I think, right, you're doing a job where we need to be able to
hold your
own. And especially for females, fight men, essentially, sometimes. Why don't you just put a bit of effort in? And, and again, this is not aesthetically how you look. This is just, you see, and they're flagged, they get to the incident.
They're exhausted.
Like, oh, God, yeah. God.
That'd be me. I'd be like, oh, Zara's sorted. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I'll go back to... I'll go back to
I'll
doing
take
what I
a
was doing.
slow walk back to the other
I was
wing.
intentionally rung slowly, thinking, where's Zara?
Yeah,
Here she comes.
Yeah, she'll be
Thank
first
God.
on the scene.
Yeah.
Were you a bit like that? Were you notorious as like the one that wants to get there first?
Maybe not notorious, but people would. People knew that I was, into
Up for it.
Up for it. Into keeping a good level of fitness, and yeah.
Were you ever scared? Was there a point where you ever felt a bit unsafe and a bit like, oh, I'm out of my depth here, don't like this?
Yeah, and again, this leads back to, who you're working with. I've been in situations where it's been riots. The prisoners are throwing their mattresses out over the landing. They're throwing their possessions.
That's terrifying.
We had this one time, there was this prisoner that was literally hitting another prisoner with a kettle. They'll throw boiling water over people. And you're just like, I just don't want to be involved in that. But if you're with the guy that I was working with that day, when his finger went up the prisoner's ass, which, the prisoner might, I don't think my colleague enjoyed it, but, the prisoner might be like, 2 for 1 here. But, when you're with a team, you feel like invincible, because you know that they're going to back you up. But when you're with people that just don't have that confidence in a situation, we've had officers seriously injured, that the trick is with the hot water is they make it sugary as well, so it will burn your skin. Like, they don't care, like, especially the ones that are in there for a long time. I think I'm not getting out. I don't care what I'm going to do to you. And one thing that's being female that's gone up is the level of attacks against women, especially I would say a younger generation. They don't care. They don't care. And actually, I've been in a situation before where I've been attacked by a younger prisoner, and the older lads on the, he was dealt with, because they were like, you don't. They were almost like, if you're going to fight, you fight one of the male officers. You don't.
So some of the older prisoners actually got involved.
Yeah. So he was then. Yeah, and then it's hard, because you're like, well, thanks, I appreciate it, but then you got to deal with them dealing with them. But there were some that were really like, I'm a prisoner, I've done wrong, but
there's some things you don't do.
Treat females like that,
So you hear a lot of the time that when people go to prison, it's sometimes not punishment. They've got like TVs in their room and they get fed and
yeah.
there's a gym and they can. Is that actually
the case?
What it's like?
Yeah. So they have they'll have PlayStations. They have TVs.
But why is that? Who makes the decision that it's okay for them to have a PlayStation in their room? Is it just the higher the?
Yeah, I mean that they will have these things taken off them, so there will be punishment that if they do something, they'll have the TV taken off them for 7 days. But actually, all that happens is they just kick off, cause a massive scene, and then it gets given back to them anyway.
It's it's so bizarre. Oh, and stupid question. When they have the TVs, what have they got like? They What have they got? What do they watch?
It's
like
standard
BBC One.
Freeview.
Right.
But what's funny actually is when you used to do a night shift, when you would come on, they would all be in bed, so to speak. So they'd be behind the door. They've had the dinner. But
What time is bedtime? Out of interest.
Again, it would depend on which wing, but ideally, like 5 o'clock-ish, they'd be behind the door.
And in bed, mate. You need to go to prison. This is a bit of you.
So they have tea and then they're so when you say
basically
go to bed, they have to be in at 5 and they're not allowed.
Pretty much. I mean, things were different pre-COVID. They were coming out for evening association, which is where they just they hang out round the wing. But during COVID, everything was so strict. So and then they just kept the routine. So they'd come down, they get the dinner, they go to the room, we bang them up. That was it, done. So then when the night person came on, there was nothing to do. You were literally just answering.
Because they're all in their cells.
Some of them would be on their bells all the time.
Yeah.
Miss, can I have a magazine?
Do they call you miss, do they?
Miss,
Do
yeah.
they?
They have a magazine? What magazine? Like a car magazine?
Well, any that we've just got, lying around. I mean, I'm not, I wasn't giving them titty magazines or anything like that.
Of course
but they can be quite annoying because they'll just constantly, and the thing is they monitor how long it takes you to answer the cell bell. So even though it's that same old guy just wanting to ask, talk absolute nonsense, you've still got to go up and answer it.
What happens? Because I'm thinking of me. So if I, God forbid, ever went to prison, which I hope I don't, but like you say, it could happen to anyone, couldn't it? You could lose your mind. Anyway, I would just live in sheer panic. You must have men and women, but you must have men that go in there that just cannot deal with it.
Yeah.
What happens to them?
Well, it depends. There'll be some that we have to assess and we'll move them off the wing for their own safety.
Right.
But then you get a lot that will play it because they want to move off the wing.
Right.
But then you get a lot of people that can't be on the same wing together. So for instance, if we've got ones that are all in the same case together, you have to look carefully at where you want to put them. So there's so much that goes into just trying to make it work. Even though I said, it's an easy job in terms of you turn up, you open some doors, you shut some doors, you try and keep the peace, you feed them, you blah, blah, blah. But
it's not that easy.
There is more to it in the sense of, he can't go on there because he's in a court case with him. And, there's all these little other things that you have to think about. Not necessarily that I would have to, because you'd have senior officers above you, but you need to be aware, and you would get to know, and they had the groups, they had the gangs that were in prison. So you'd have there would always be a leader on a wing, or a couple of leaders. So you always
I wanted to ask you a bit more of that, because when you see like prison like films or documentaries or series or whatever, there's always like the top dog, isn't
there's
there?
a pecking
and
order.
no one messes.
How do you get to
with
be
him.
top dog? How
do you know
that
what?
happen?
Some of them will just stroll on in, and it's almost like it's just given to them. But again, it's and also so many of them know each other. So they will come. Oh, hello, mate. Yeah, I was only selling drugs with you a week ago, and here we are. Like a lot of them know each other, and a lot of them would have been involved in some way with each other. So actually they'll just turn up and they know they have that authority from however they were on the outside.
I guess it's like normal life, isn't it? Like you just get that in normal life.
Well,
look at the same in prison.
Like Big Brother, you put a load of not criminals, normal people in there. Look how much that erupts. I mean, I know it's not the same, but essentially you're putting a lot of people together and they're bad, most of them, not very nice people. It's going to kick off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Question. Do you think prison works? Do you think reforming someone and all that kind of stuff, is that something that actually happens?
Yes, but I think it's a very, very, very small percentage. So
really?
I believe in prison, and I believe that there should be the punishment, But I actually think we can't reform characters where we're making it so easy for them to reoffend again and give them, some of them come back into prison because they make more money there by selling drugs. So to them, they get a roof over their head. They don't have to pay any bills. They can have their visitors come once a week. They can go to the gym. They get fed, and they'll deal drugs in prison. So why be out, really?
I bet it's quite a nice life for some people. So someone who's had like a really hard life on the outside, or I don't know, been homeless or whatever, I guess prison actually is quite a nice life. And you hear about the people who actually come out of prison, they want to get back in, don't they? Because they get so used to it and they enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be, like the gentleman I spoke about that had, he couldn't wait to leave. That was no place for him, but the majority, that it's nothing to them, and again because of the control they have over us. So they get what they want. All they have to do is cause a scene. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I've just watched the Jill Dando documentary on Netflix, and there's the guy, isn't there, who gets put in prison, and he was wrongly accused, I think, wasn't he? Is that right?
I actually haven't watched it,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's so good, but it talks about him going into prison and like how he found it. And there was another inmate who's been interviewed as well, who was in there for something else, and he was meant to be in there. But he said like when he went in, everyone, because obviously it was such a big case, wasn't it, the Jill Dando murder, and everyone was quite like excited for him to come in. And people wanted to see what he was like this guy who, allegedly gunned down Jill Dando. And he went in and he was really not good in there. Like he was really struggling and just couldn't cope in there. But this one particular guy, he wasn't on his wing. So he was like, yeah, and he's talking about it really openly. He's like, yeah, I just faked a heart attack one day just so I get to go down and see him. And I said to him, did you do it, mate? And he went, no. So a lot of people do that as well, like fake
all the time
illnesses.
And because and sometimes you've got to take them to hospital, so then they'll get a little trip out to to Chelmsford Hospital, and they can sit there and have some cups of tea and just get away. And this is what I mean. They are not stupid. Like they know how to work the system, and we sadly, and again, I'm sure the police feel the same. They don't give us the right powers anymore. So this just opens them up to just, doing what they want. And I think it's very hard for us. And actually, I would say all the good people leave. All the good officers are like, I'm not, why would I stay and do this? Because they actually generally want to make a difference. They want to see people turn their lives around and keep some order. But we're not allowed to do it the way we want to do it. So a lot of people just go, why would I stay?
So I don't want to get into like what happened, but obviously a very big case recently was Lucy Letby. And she's obviously gone to prison for for life. She's never coming out, and rightly so. And a lot of people are like, oh, she's going to get in prison. They're just going to kill her. They're just going to do something to her. Yeah. So when you go into prison, and obviously there is a risk for her life, and you have to protect her, which is bizarre, but you do. How does that work? So it's solitary confinement. What is that?
Yeah, she would, especially someone with such a high profile case, she won't be mingling with.
She won't see anyone.
Or the only people she might do is the they'll have certain, like with the G-wing workers that I told you about, when they've got that level of enhancement, she might be on a wing like that it's just the people that are working really hard to just, get on with what they're doing. They don't want to get in any trouble. It looks good for them. So she might be allowed to mingle on a wing like that. But, the chances are she'll be on her own.
That would be really weird though as well, wouldn't it? Like if you're a good, one of the good ones in prison sort of thing, and then you're mingling with like somebody so notorious. Like it'd be so weird.
I mean, anybody, so basically for where I was, if you were a paedophile or you did something to an animal, they're coming after you. So we had a whole separate wing. So where the G-wing, where we had the workers, the other side of G-wing was the Red Spur, and the Red Spur was all the paedophiles. So they had to be moved around the prison when no one else was allowed to. So we would say, we're taking these guys, and everybody had to stop what they're doing, and because otherwise they'll just get attacked.
God.
You can do anything. You could literally kill 10 people. But if you're a paedophile, then that's it. Yeah.
And when you go into like solitary confinement, are you just literally on your own? You stay in that room. You just get your food. You go out.
You would, yeah. So everything will be done on a regime just for them.
And will they have a TV?
She probably will have a TV. Yeah.
That's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Because now they see it all as that these are their basic human rights.
Yeah. Which. I don't want to get into that because it's an awful case, but
yeah, it is. It's fascinating, though, isn't it? Like what she will be doing in prison now.
Well, not a lot, hopefully. Just
watching TV.
Watching herself on TV.
Actually, and then I guess as a prison officer, you will have your favourites, right? It's like a teacher. You always have always have your favourites.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with someone that's done something really, really bad, is it really hard to kind of separate it from it?
And again, I think that comes down to how the officer is. So I think I'm somebody that's very, if I like you, and people know, like I'm an enthusiastic character. So, if someone means a lot to me, they know that. If I don't like you or you don't interest me, not that I would be rude, but I'm not going to be that same person, because also I think it's a disservice to myself and them. Don't give the impression to someone that you're super keen when you're not. Yeah. Don't do that to them. Yeah. If you're not keen, then just leave it.
So I guess as a prison officer, some you would chat to maybe a bit more, but others you were just like,
no, I'm not interested. Yeah, I'm really not interested. And I just, and it's really hard because they would be the ones that if you were to ever give off, say something you shouldn't say, they'll be the first ones to run off to the governor or someone higher. Be like, she said this.
God.
Yeah.
And how long were you a prison officer for?
About 3 years.
And would you say you enjoyed it? You enjoyed your time?
I'm really glad I did it. I think it was, and a lot of people said to me, we can see why you're here. Like, I think you get people that do a job and you think, yeah, that's, well suited. And I'm glad, because I felt like a lot of people go in there and they hated it. They'd come in and they'd be like, God, I'm here at this shithole again. But, and they were so, God, it'd bring you down. Yeah. And I'd be like, okay, but,
you're here.
So kick some ass.
Yeah.
You've got to make the best of it, I guess,
then write a massive report about it. Yeah.
Oh, no.
You've got to just, at the end of the day, we're there, we're being paid. We've got to try and don't do it then. If you hate it, this is what really used to irritate me. They moan. Go get another job then.
Yeah.
And I guess with that sort of job, you need morale to be high, because you're dealing with such awful people that you need people to be like, right, come on.
Yeah. But people like me were few and far between. At that point, that prison had just been going, down. And when I speak to people that still work there, the staff shortages are just shocking.
Oh, really?
And then you can't operate the regime properly. You don't have enough staff. So when you turn up and it's go, oh yeah, so-and-so sick, so-and-so sick, so-and-so, you're like, right, great. So then you're having officers being pulled up other wings that you don't work. But the whole dynamic will just change. And what they don't realise is that you're letting us down while you're sitting at home. And yes, sometimes it was valid, but a lot of the time they could just like, well, I'm depressed now because of this.
I'm not coming in.
But then we're left dealing with it.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, I've just thought of something as you were talking then. This prisoner who escaped recently from prison.
Yes.
Yeah, that wasn't your prison, was it?
No.
What would have, how can somebody escape from prison?
Well, so what he did, so he was actually on, I don't know whether he was on the bid food truck. So we're working in the kitchen. The bid food used to deliver our food. So it would come in through the gate. An officer would come out. He would search the vehicle, meant to look underneath, and then he would escort them through all the gates, where it was going. So what I think has happened is that somehow he has managed to get himself underneath, and he's got into the gate hold, and they've just not checked underneath
on purpose. Do you think they didn't check, or?
Well, this is the question, isn't it? But you'd like to think no, because you think, what do you get out of that? Even if they're and they're trying to bribe officers all the time. Will you bring this in for me? If I give you a couple of grand, can you get me this? Can you, they're constantly trying to do that. I mean, why would you risk it, really?
Yeah.
Why would you risk it? So I would really like to think that it was just a complete oversight, being lazy. But I mean, there'll be a few less staff at that prison now.
I bet. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Oh, honestly, it is. There is something about prisons that is just fascinating.
We don't usually get to go in it. Do
Yeah,
you?
we don't get to go in.
Yeah, so you
exactly.
wanna-
I when I was there, I was like, I'd love just to, like show and tell. Can I just bring some of my friends in?
Have a little walk
Just have a little
round.
wander around.
Yeah.
Just to, because you can't, I think people feel like they have more of an insight into police because, people have been, go in there being cautious. That's more likely to happen. Or you go into a station to give a statement or whatever. Was no one, unless you're visiting or you're the actual prisoner or you work there, no one's going in there. So it's the
unknown, isn't
fascinating.
it, a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. And I think I'm glad I did it. I'm glad that he told me to go get a proper job. I know it sounds rude, but I think what he was trying to say is go get a job where you get a pension, you're getting regular money.
Yeah.
If you're going to eat all their food, fine, you're not paying for it.
Yeah.
That was probably
Yeah,
the
and
long and short of
actually,
it.
you would never have done that, I guess, would you?
No.
And it's a life experience, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's been absolutely fascinating, isn't it?
so
Yeah, thank you so
fascinating.
much for
Welcome.
coming in and talking about it. I know that loads of people are going to be like,
Oh,
listening to this.
absolutely.
Ooh, juicy.
Well, tell them if they want to know more, come have their fannies blazed and
Yeah.
I'll tell them
Get
more.
all the stories. What
Yeah.
a great thing
all
to
your
do.
balls. Listen, guys, I'm not any of you. I'll take anything. Listen.
I love it. Zara, thank you.
You're welcome.